I already got a couple of emails earlier this evening right out of the box with the "you are a tool of Satan" as the subject box. Usually it's just, Ian Punnet, you're a tool. So it's the "of Satan," I think, that makes that unique. The hard part for me on that, for this show tonight, is that people are already drawing conclusions without having even heard the material. And I think that if they read Jesus Interrupted, they wouldn't feel so threatened by the idea that these concepts are not new, that Bart Ehrman talks about in this book, Jesus Interrupted, where he explores the inconsistencies of the Bible. He reveals what I think only is hidden to some, and those that this material is hidden from are those that aren't looking for it. Bottom line. The final chapter of the book is one of the nicest sort of postcards to people of faith. I think there is nothing to get bugged about in this book at all. In fact, I would say if at any time in your life you ever thought about going to seminary yourself, read this book, Jesus Interrupted. It's like seminary in a jar. You could just add water and stir to this book. And this is what a lot of the experience that you're going to have would start with this kind of material. I think it's fascinating. I think you're going to really enjoy this show. For those people who want to think of the Bible as only error-free and that there is nothing in it that ever is inconsistent with any other part in it, this may be a difficult show for you. But I still think you're going to find it very entertaining, and I can't wait to get to the caller segment coming up later on. I hope everybody plays nice. For Bart Ehrman on Coast to Coast AM, this is Ian Punnet. Jesus Interrupted is the follow-up book from Bart Ehrman. The other book was Misquoting Jesus, and before I go any further, let me just say, of the many books you've written, I've enjoyed Misquoting Jesus and Jesus Interrupted the best so far, but I really liked your other Gnostic books as well. So good evening. How are you, Bart?
Doing fine, thanks.
All right, so let me clear this up so I don't screw this up all night. Ehrman or Ehrman?
Yes, right, that's the debate. So, I'd say Ehrman.
Ehrman.
Yes.
Okay, but like professors I've had who have a bigger emphasis on proper German pronunciation would have said Ehrman.
Well, I think the name started out as German, Ehrman, with two N's on the end, Ehrman, but it got anglicized, so we call it Ehrman.
Works for me. I just wanted to make sure.
Right.
I look at that, and actually one of the professors I had in seminary always insisted on us trying to do the German-sounding words as much as possible, and I was terrible with that. So everything about Jesus Interrupted, I said last hour, I don't think I found one thing. I read it cover to cover with the exception of maybe part of a chapter where the phone rang and I may have gotten distracted. But I don't think I found one thing in this book I disagreed with.
Well, that's good to know. And, you are absolutely right that this is material that is covered in most mainline seminaries, but most people have never heard of it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the fun thing about having gone through seminaries. You can bring these things up at cocktail parties and say, "Oh, well, have you ever considered this or that?" And people go, "Wow," but it's not really new material. It's just new to most people. So that's what I love so much about what you put down here in revealing the hidden contradictions in the Bible and why we don't know about them. The subtitle for the book, Jesus Interrupted, it reveals it. But there's not like an active conspiracy out there to keep this material from being known or discussed.
No, there's no Vatican cover-up or anything of the sort. My view is that the reason people don't know about these historical findings on the Bible is because scholars have done such a terrible job at communicating with normal human beings, and because pastors who learn this stuff in seminary just don't tell the people in their congregations.
Well, I took up the challenge of that because you mentioned that in one of the early chapters. So I'm preaching in 7 hours, and I've included a prolonged quote from your book in my sermon.
Yeah, well, good luck.
I'm not worried about it. I'm so not worried about it. I think what you make I think you make so many interesting points, and they're all clear, and I think they're well supported, and I think it's a totally valid thing to bring up. So it fits in perfectly with what I'm preaching tomorrow. So that's what I'm going to use, and I'm not expecting anybody to get mad about it because I don't think any of this book. And well, correct me if I'm wrong, but reading Jesus Interrupted, I didn't feel at any time like you're trying to put a thumb in anybody's eye.
Well, I'm certainly not trying to. I'm trying to just divulge what scholars have been saying for a long time about the Bible, about its contradictions and discrepancies and the various points of view that it has, and how, in fact, knowing about these discrepancies can help people understand the Bible. That it, in fact, opens up the understanding of the Bible better than the assumptions that the Bible is some kind of infallible statement that is internally consistent.
Well, and I think that's the part that probably at its core, whether it's misquoting Jesus or in this book, Jesus Interrupted, that's the nerve you keep touching, is for people that believe the Bible was a book that was handed down from on high in the form that we have now, uncovered almost like in the back of a wagon or a cave or something like that, and not the very human book that tells the story of humans as written by humans who are no doubt inspired by God as they wrote, but were not channeling God as they wrote it.
Well, a lot of people, especially in the United States, have a view of the Bible that it was somehow, I don't know, dictated by God or given directly by God in some way, and that it is inerrant without any errors in it. And what I show is that scholars have long known there are in fact lots of errors in the Bible and contradictions and different views, and other problems. I mean, books that claim to be written by people who didn't really write them, and so forth. And so these are all things that I talk about in the book. But it does affect some people's faith, because some people have this view of the inerrancy of the Bible, and my argument is that isn't a view that stands up well before historical scholarship.
Well, it doesn't affect mine, and I think it's interesting to read as you talked more about yours, and I've known about this for a while with you because I've been reading your books for years, that it did affect your faith, that you went from being a conservative evangelical Christian to your current state of a self-acknowledged agnostic, correct?
Well, that's right. When I was in high school, I had a born-again experience and became a very strong evangelical Christian, went off to a fundamentalist Bible college, Moody Bible Institute, and graduated from there. And then I went to Billy Graham's alma mater, Wheaton College, and graduated from there. And so I was a very devout believer in the Bible, and thought for years that it was an inerrant revelation from God. It was only when I went to graduate school and started studying these texts in the original Greek and Hebrew, and got involved with deep, serious historical and literary analysis, that I started realizing that, in fact, this view of the inerrancy of the Bible just couldn't stand up to the results of scholarship.
Well, you approached seminary, I think, in the right way that people should do it, going in and going deep, rolling up your sleeves, being fearless in the way in which one does scholarship. But there are lots of people who go to seminary who treat it like it's advanced Sunday school, where all it's going to do is it's going to help purify you of any thoughts that ever questioned the Bible, instead of the other way around, which is inject you with more thoughts to question and to help sort of pull apart and then put back together again the text.
That's right. That's sort of one of the points that I try to make in Jesus Interrupted, is that people who go to seminary naturally expect that they're just going to have this devotional approach to the Bible, and that it will be like, as you say, sort of an advanced Sunday school. And a lot of students are really shocked that when they take their classes on the Bible, the Bible's taught from a historical perspective, and they learn scholarship on the Bible, which isn't at all what they think, because it's not sort of a devotional approach that tells you how to use the Bible for how to believe and how to live. It's dealing with the Bible from a very serious, critical perspective.
Well, and I remember the first day of class a couple of times there would be somebody who would be coming in, and you could just tell that they were kind of freaking out as the professor would say something like, we would talk about the two different creation stories, even in Genesis. And even just to say, well, these very likely came from different communities, and this one meant this, and this one, and just you could just see people raising their hands, going, wait, whoa, what are you trying to say here? And they